wonder at the mystery of the night that engulfed them. The time came when I felt I must go to the lake, through the forest that lay between, see for myself the open reaches of water, the ships whose voices I had heard, the waves and cliffs of the coast. One day, all alone, I started out through woods I had never traversed. At that time there were lynx and wildcats there, and I had heard gruesome stories of how they lay in wait to pounce on wanderers passing through. I ran most of the long winding trail, and when I burst at last out of the gloom, I was frightened and breathless. Before me were space and a sparkling blue horizon, with no land as far as I could see. An abandoned pier reached out from the shore, and I picked my way over the huge blocks of stone to its very end. There I found a deep well of clear water down between them. A school of perch darted in and out of the rocks. They were green and gold and black, and I was fascinated by their beauty. Seagulls wheeled and cried above me. Waves crashed against the pier. I was alone in a wild and lovely place, part at last of the wind and the water, part of the dark forest through which I had come, and of all the wild sounds and colors and feelings of the place I had found. That day I entered into a life of indescribable beauty and delight. There, I believe, I heard the singing wilderness for the first time. I kept the pier a secret, and stole away there as often as I could. It was the answer to all of my childish desires, a place of magic and wonder which belonged to me alone. My perceptions were uncluttered, my impressions were pure and uninfluenced. My feelings of closeness to nature and of sympathy with the creatures of the wild were true feelings. In them, I know now, was that ancient realization of oneness so hard to know or recognize as life becomes more involved. John Masefield, in speaking of his own first contact with what he called the greater life, said, "I believe that life to be the source of all that is of glory and goodness in this world, and modern man, not knowing that life, is dwelling in death." Some years later I discovered a stand of virgin forest, known as the Northwest Corner. Here were tremendous trees, the last of the old primeval stand, and on the ground huge moss-covered logs, soft and spongy with decay. This spot was different from any other I had known, even more mysterious than the pier on Lake Michigan. I used to tiptoe into that timber and creep stealthily from bole to bole, thrilled with strange and indefinable sensations, some of fear and some of wonder and delight. Those ancient trees, the green-gold twilight among them, the silence of that cushioned place, did something to my boyish soul which I have never forgotten. Another time I found a spring hole at the headwaters of a little river I knew. A shelf of rock overlooked the pool, and from it I could look down into deep crystal-clear water. Around it stood tall trees, and at one end was a little sand beach where a trickle of a creek came in from the bog above. It was quiet there, and the shadowed pool was smooth and unruffled. A school of speckled trout lay just below me, and when I tossed a pine cone onto the surface, they rose as one, and the pool became alive with their splashing. That pool, the rising trout, the silence there, were a bit of primitive America, untouched and unseen, except by me. There, too, I heard the singing wilderness. The first of such experiences, they were the forerunners of countless others, and gave me a desire that has led me into the wilderness regions of the continent in the hope that I might hear the singing again. Since those early days I have known the mountains of the east and west, the cypress swamps and savannas of the south, the muskegs of the north. Always there has been the search and the listening, not only for me, but for those who have been with me, and I have found that whenever I have renewed even the slightest way the early sense of communion and the belonging I knew as a child, whenever I have glimpsed, if only for an instant, the glory I knew then, happiness and joy have been mine. In the chapters that follow, I tell of my experiences in the North, but far more important than the places I have seen or what I have done or thought about is the possibility